As the second category that's shown on the slide, it's a bit tricky. If the application itself is filed after March 16, 2013, but it claims priority back to an application filed before that effective date, then it can fall into one of the three scenarios that is shown in yellow. If no claims of the application is entitled to the earlier priority date, then the entire application will be treated as an AIA application, and the new rules will apply. And on the other hand, if all claims are entitled to the earlier priority date, then the whole application will be considered a pre-AIA application, and the old system, the first to invent system, will apply. But if there is even one claim in the application that is not entitled to the earlier priority date, then the whole application will fall under the new system, and it will be examined under the new prior art rules. So basically, all it takes is one claim. If you have one claim that is not entitled to the priority, the entire application will become treated as an AIA application. Even if you later amend or cancel that claim, you cannot go back to the previous system. You are in the AIA. It will be continued to be an AIA application. So just to quickly go over the changes to Section 102. So Section 102A1 redefines what is prior art, and basically it is based on the pre-AIA Section 102A. And what it says is that if an application was patented, described in a printed publication, in public use, on sale, or publicly available before the effective filing date of the claimed invention, then a person is not entitled to a patent. So let's parse this out a little bit. You can note that there is no geographic limitation attached to the prior art acts, that is public use, sale, or public availability. So earlier in Section 102A, the prior art acts had to be within the US. So sale in Europe was not considered prior art, but that has been eliminated. So now prior art acts in the US and outside US are considered the same as prior art. And also there is no, you'll note that there is no public limitation associated to on sale. So right now there is confusion about what the on sale really means. And once these issues are litigated, we'll probably have a better idea of what this really means. But the current interpretation is that any commercial sale, offer for sale, whether public or not, is considered to be prior art. Section 102A2, it covers the earlier filed, later published applications, which is generally known as the submarine prior art. It's based on the pre-AIA Section 102E. And the big difference between this section and Section 102E is the use of the term effective filing date. And as I had previously mentioned, you no longer require a US filing date under the new definition of effective filing. So a US application or PCT application that has an earlier foreign priority date will still be considered prior art under this section. So that's the major difference between this and Section 102E. So now to quickly go over the exceptions, the Section 102B provides the exceptions to Section 102A. By these exceptions, I mean what is not prior art. So Section 102B1, so B1A basically says that that an inventor has 1 year from the disclosure of an invention within which to file an application. There's nothing new here. It simply continues the grace period provision afforded under, provided by the 1952 Patent Act. You have this 1 year grace period. What really has the patent community talking is Section 102B1B. And what it says is that if an inventor publicly discloses an invention before filing, then any third-party disclosure in the interim will not be considered prior art. So when the AIA first came out, a lot of commentators were saying that this provision effectively creates a first-to-publish system, or that the AIA somehow prefers that inventors publish first before filing. But that has turned out that that's a misconception, because the USPTO's guidelines clearly says that you can invoke this exception only if the third-party disclosure and the inventor's disclosure are substantially similar. Now, the chances of that happening are very limited, right? Now, let's take an example. Inventor discloses and publishes an article disclosing elements A and B. Competitor sees the article, decides to publish an article disclosing elements A, B, and C. Now, the two disclosures are not substantially similar. So that means you cannot invoke this exception, and the third-party disclosure will be a prior art against you. And the USPTO further specifies that even if the differences between the two disclosures are trivial or obvious variants, you still cannot invoke this exception. So the only time this will really work is if the two disclosures are very duplicative. So it is recommended that you do not actively rely on this provision and publish before filing. The best practice is still file as quickly as possible, and this provision will come in handy if there is accidental disclosure by the inventor. Section 102B2 says that a disclosure is not prior art under Section A2 if disclosure is obtained from the inventor, if the inventor publicly discloses before the effective filing date, or if there is common ownership between the disclosure and the claimed invention before the effective filing date. So as you'll see, in all of this, Section 102A and B, the term effective filing date is very continuously being used. And Section 102D actually provides guidance on what this term really means. Basically, it says that the effective filing date can be the actual filing date of the application, or the filing date of the earliest application to which priority is claimed. Now, this earliest application can be the filing date of a foreign priority application. So you basically no longer need a US filing date. You can rely on the filing date of a foreign application. So this is a big change with the AIA. And what it does is that it basically streamlines the applicant's filing process. So earlier, people used to file a foreign application and file a US provisional application to have a 102E prior art date. That is no longer required. And just quickly, this effectively eliminates the Hilmer doctrine, which had, created a bias of US law against applications that originate outside the US. And by removing the geographical and language distinctions, the Hilmer doctrine has been abolished, and US provisional applications and foreign priority applications are now on the same level field. In the interest of time, I'm going to quickly go over skip some of this. Okay, thank you. But I'll, okay. I will actually just skip to the slightly more complex examples. It's the definitions of prior art are easier to understand. It's where the exceptions come into play. Those are a little bit tricky. So in this slide shows that if you have a prior art before your or a disclosure of the claimed invention, basically before the US filing date, it should be considered a prior art. However, if you had actually filed a foreign priority application 12 months before, then your effective filing date has now been moved to 12 months earlier, so that is no longer a prior art. And what it also does is that now that your effective filing date is the foreign priority date, you get this another 12 months grace period moving forward from the foreign priority filings. So if there is any disclosure by the inventor during that 12-month period, the exception of 102B 1A should apply because it's a disclosure from the inventor in the 12-month period before the effective filing date. So you can basically, it will not be considered a prior art because the grace period will apply. So, and here, if there is a disclosure by anyone before the effective filing date in the 12-month period, but the inventor had chosen to publicly disclose the invention in the 12-month period, and the inventor's disclosure and the third-party disclosure are substantially similar, it's important to remember that, then this will not be a prior art because of the exception under 102B1B. Just to quickly mention this, the common ownership exceptions. Section 102B2C basically says that if a disclosure will not be considered a prior art if the claimed invention and the disclosed subject matter were owned by the same person or subject to an obligation of assignment to the same person. Now, what is meant by, subject to an obligation of assignment to the same person? Section 102C provides some guidance on that. So 102C basically says that it will be deemed that the subject matter disclosed and the claimed invention are owned by the same person or subject to an obligation of assignment to the same person if a joint research agreement is in effect before the filing date, before the effective filing date of the claimed invention. Again, note that the joint research agreement does not have to be executed at the time of the claimed invention. It only has to be executed before the effective filing date. So, you can have the claimed invention and you become aware of some prior art, you can still go ahead and execute a joint research agreement. The only caveat is that the claimed invention should be within the scope